These are the stories behind your favorite Disciple songs. I try to lock these thoughts inside a tub, but it ends up being my panic room. When the demons are thinking of skeletons, the ghosts leave me with nowhere to run.
Here we are, story behind the song. Yet another edition of your favorite show and mine. And this time, for the first time, we're all in the same room. Believe it or not, I don't know if you can tell. This is not three different
Green screens.
Yeah, it's green screened.
So it's a very special night. We're going to be talking about the story behind the song of Pour Some Sugar on Me by
Correct.
Def Leppard.
Yep.
Yep.
We never said
was written.
Disciple song. Oh, wait. You know what? The theme song does say your favorite Disciple songs.
Oh,
Dang it.
darn it.
All right, let's cover that song and then tell the story behind it.
Okay, perfect. I can't tell you the story behind the song, actually.
And if you can tell it in 12 seconds, I'll let you.
Joe Elliott came in with an acoustic guitar and was playing like dun 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 dun. They're like, "That's it. We got to do that. What is it?"
Wow.
Yeah. Okay.
3 chords.
Yep. 3
Love it.
chords. We got to do it.
Love it.
Starts with
well,
a one.
yes, it does. We used way more than 3 chords on this song
Sure
we're
did.
talking about this month.
And that song is Panic Room,
Yes, it is.
a brand new song.
It is. And it's one that, so this episode.
It's the first story behind the song of the new album.
It is. And this will air in about a week. So people should have heard it by now. If you haven't, go check it out. But it's just a song that has a lot of cool things to it, I think.
So many cool things.
From just to start, I think what's
We all
probably-
3 sing on the song.
That's true. First song to ever feature all 3 of our vocals that are not gang vocals.
Yep.
You know, but if I'm correct, it was the first song that we ever demoed that's on this album. I made a demo for it in 2016, actually during the recording sessions for "Long Live the Rebels."
Wow.
I distinctly remember writing like some of the verse lyrics. Do you remember when we played Norway and Sweden and we took a ferry ride?
Yes.
And we were all exhausted.
Yes.
So it was like an hour or 2 hour ferry ride from Norway to
Yep.
Sweden to play a different festival the next day. That was a whirlwind of travel, if you
Yep.
remember. But maybe that's why there was
You wrote it on the ferry ride?
I did. I wrote.
Was Heather with you on that trip?
No. It was just us. Natalie was there, I think.
The only thing I remember about that ferry ride is Soul Glow Activator was on that ride
Yeah.
with us, and he had his whole producing station set
That's
up
right.
in that food area
Little cafe.
He just had his crap everywhere, and he was just sitting there like making beats.
Totally. Yep.
So-
Yeah, that's really funny. I remember that too. But yeah, I remember writing some of the lyrics. Maybe it's because we were so like sleep deprived and neurotic that I was like in a really weird headspace and writing these weird lyrics.
When was the first time you showed that song to us?
It would have been probably a month or so later. It was definitely in the middle of recording Rebels.
I didn't realize it was that long ago.
But looking back on it, I would say between that and then like the finish of this album, all my demos got so much better in quality that honestly, probably the first time y'all heard the demo, y'all were probably like, oh, this isn't that good.
Totally.
You know what I mean?
I totally was not initially into the song.
I remember. Yeah.
And I remember not digging it.
Yeah.
And thinking this song's got a long way to go.
Yep.
You know, and I think that might have even been my feedback to you. I was like, yeah, it's got a long way to go.
Yeah.
I knew that that bum bum. I was like, I remember saying to you like, it feels like you're wanting it to be huge and it's not there yet.
Yeah.
And that we got to do something to make that part huge.
Yep.
If you want that to stay. Yes. Website guy. And I remember thinking the DJ line was probably the most creative line ever submitted or thought of. I was like, that line's awesome.
Yeah.
I remember thinking that line's awesome. And then I remember not liking the tag line of the chorus.
Yep.
So it used to be like, the first 4 lines. I try to like myself. Skeletons, go see me with nowhere to run. Panic room, panic room.
Yep.
Panic
It was literally following
room.
that guitar riff was the words "panic room," and I can't remember what came first when I was writing that, but that's how I thought. Oh, that's how it'll be a hook. It'll be this thing. And I do remember you saying it's not like an emotional connection for people to hear those words. Like people might not know what it means or not understand it, and it's just kind of a strange thing to chant.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, I also remember that part because I even said that your voice very, very much resembled Trevor from TFK.
Oh, TFK.
Like I remember hearing the voice, and it was almost as if you had gotten Trevor to sing it.
Was it the I try to lock part?
No, it was that panic room. It was just the way he was the inflection on his voice.
Yeah. I'll play it under here so people can hear it.
Yeah, it was like the inflection on your voice. Like I was like, wow, this is very like TFK. And I think I remember texting you, be like, it reminds me of TFK. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I didn't like it. So I didn't like it at all.
And so that was I would
Not
say.
saying I don't like TFK. Just
Well, so you had like several huge contributions, but one of them was taking out those words from the tag and putting the O's in. And then whenever you came up with just another day in the panic, I was like,
Yeah.
that definitely took it up a huge notch.
Well, then also I felt like the chorus wasn't done yet. So I was
Right.
like, when you're like, ghosts leave me with nowhere to run. I was like, it feels like you're ramping up, like it's like, that's obviously the chorus, but
it needs
it's
something
like,
to
it
soar.
needs to go chorus 2, like this second section. And that's where we came up with the idea, hide me away and throw away the key. Just another day in the panic. So it definitely was a really big collaboration. So that was pretty much the end of my collaboration. It was those ideas.
Yeah.
And then you guys went and saw the Queen
tell that
movie,
story,
Bohemian
Joe.
Rhapsody.
Yeah, we were in Minneapolis.
I think so. Yeah, Mall of America.
Yeah, we were on tour with Cutlass, and that night we.
This is years after. So
Yeah.
that all happened, and then the song sat for a long time.
So this was 2018, the fall.
Yeah.
We were sitting at a mall on an off day, and the Queen movie had just come out, and we were like, let's go see the movie.
Yep.
So we went to see the movie. Amazing. Got back to the bus, and we flipped on the Apple TV, turned on YouTube, and we all just had like this like craving to watch like actual like live Queen videos. I think we went and watched the actual Live Aid concert.
Yep, the Wembley concert.
The Wembley
we watched.
concert.
I
and
still have
then-
not seen that.
Oh man, it's so incredible. So we watched that, and then of course YouTube and their algorithms is like, hey, you watch that, so you'll like this Queen video. And like 2 or 3 videos later, their song "I Want It All" came on, and I was like,
How's it go?
I want it all.
Sing it.
I want it all.
Come on.
Yeah.
And I want it now.
Yep. And I remember when it came on, I was like, oh man, I haven't heard this song in forever. This song freaking rules. And I had totally forgot that in the middle of this song, they have a section that speeds up, and it's kind of like a little fast thing, and they do this guitar solo. And
We were all just like,
we were like, man, that is so good.
Yeah.
And then I looked at everybody. I was like, we need to do that on this record.
and this was 2 months prior to going into the studio.
Yes,
So
like, and
everything's pretty much done.
Yeah,
The song was done.
Yeah, the song was done.
It had a guitar solo
had a-
that was in tempo.
in the tempo.
It was a more conventional guitar solo.
And I mentioned it, and I think Kevin, you were up
I was
there.
not into the idea.
Yeah, he was not into the idea. He was kind of like, I don't understand what you're going for or whatnot. And I was like, no, like
Well,
it
and
would
two,
speed
I
up.
think what I didn't want to say, because we always, when we come up with an idea and somebody's not into it, the general rule is let the idea happen and then decide.
Yeah.
Yep.
So like I knew that I needed to like let the idea happen and then decide.
Yeah.
But in the back of my mind, I was going, this song is already really good. Y'all gonna mess it up.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking. I didn't say that. That's what I was thinking.
Well,
so funny.
and so I was basically like, no, I think this could work. And
Well,
Kevin,
because I remember, when you first
Yeah.
had the idea, we were like, oh, what song could we do that in?
Yeah.
what
I hear him a
song?
whole lot better than you. Is that okay?
Yeah. I'm just
Okay,
coming
cool.
through my yeah, so we were like trying to figure out like, oh, where can we do that? And it's fortuitous that it was that song because it really made sense with it in
Yeah.
terms of like the idea, the concept, Panic Room. It's this
Chaotic.
kind of frantic,
Yeah.
frantic,
Well, frenetic too.
Frenetic.
frantic, chaotic song.
Yeah.
And so to add that in really took it to the next level
Yeah.
of that.
Very stablatic.
And so Kevin basically just looked at me and was like, if you want to do it, write it. You know, just kind of like, I mean, I'm not going to do it. So you're like, whatever's going on in your head,
Oh, I
like, go
definitely
make it
didn't have
happen.
that attitude. I was like, if you're coming to me to make me like contribute to this, no, like go,
So-
you do it.
So I think I went and I guess I programmed. I can't remember the whole steps of it, but like I kind of came up with the skeleton for the drums. I knew
Yes.
I wanted to start with this whole like
Just punk.
the punk beat, and then go into a straight beat, and then go into like this Avenged Sevenfold type thing. And of course,
yeah.
I don't know anything about music notes or how to play guitar or anything. So like I write the skeleton, and I just kind of was like, here you go, Josie and Andrew, make it awesome. And so like as they were like doing guitar parts, I was just kind of like, make this a little more like Slipknotty here. And then like when we got to that Avenged Sevenfold part, they were doing kind of the guitar harmonies, and I was like, Avenged Sevenfold it a little bit more. Like, you know, I was
Totally.
like, I was like in a way kind of directing it.
Oh, yeah,
but
you totally had the vision.
without knowing, like,
Yeah,
I had no
because-
idea what to tell y'all to do.
Well, because we tracked your drums and
Yeah.
like, right? Like we tracked your drums and we didn't know what was going to go over it yet. Right.
Oh, that is right.
I think we tracked the drums and we were just like, okay, this is the part. So now let's write something to it.
Oh, we did that in the studio.
Yeah.
Okay, so
I think so.
I came up with this whole thing in my head, and then in the studio we made this
Laid
happen.
it
That's
down.
what it was. We never demoed it out.
Yeah.
That's right. Which
Dang.
is
And I don't
crazy.
think I was there when you did it either.
Yeah,
I think you're
somewhere
right.
else.
And then you came in later because we sat there, me and Drew, which this is rare too. Me and Andrew were both standing in the control room with guitars on, going back and forth playing this solo, which you don't do. We overdub everything individually normally because of the nature of this thing. We wanted it to be this real, like, there are two guys going back and forth and then joining together. And so we're both standing there. And I think it was one of the last things we did for the album too. It was, in the recording process.
Yeah. And so we did that. Kevin wasn't there.
Crazy.
And then he came back to the studio, and we were like, listen to this. And when,
It's one of those things where it was so perfect. You already knew what my response was going to
Yeah.
be.
We definitely felt good about it.
It was so good. The moment that it comes in with so much power. You know, there's that. I mean, the way that the guitar is being played in the hands there, that. I mean, it doesn't even really matter what you do after that. I mean, you're sold after that first little guitar riff. Just like, okay, that's great. And then, of course, when he starts doing the hi-hat, I was like, oh my God. I mean,
yeah, seeing his reaction in the studio, I was like, I had a good idea. All right.
Great idea. Great idea. And
so-
lesson learned to all you, musicians out there, band guys out there, when your bandmate comes to you with an idea, and you're trying to explain. I can't remember. I've got one of those stories too, where I was trying to explain to you an idea, you weren't into it, but then once you heard it, I don't know if it's best thing ever or something. I don't know.
It
Could have
something like that.
Could have been one of those. It's the same thing. It's just like sometimes you just can't verbalize how cool your idea is.
Yeah.
And you're trying to just get your team on board with the idea. And you just can't, verbalize it. Like sometimes they just have to hear it.
Yeah.
And that was definitely me because I didn't think it was going to be a good idea. I thought it was just going to be kind of whatever. And it was one of the best ideas, probably one of the highlights of the album.
It's definitely something that people are commenting on a lot. I mean, that is the second song that we released from the record, and most of you've heard it, and we've gotten a lot of comments on that in particular, which is great confirmation. And and so since we're in the middle of talking about the studio process of it, the idea for Schwab was interesting too. So
all right, so I can talk about that.
Yep.
But didn't we do something with the intro that was different? I remember saying I kind of wanted to change the intro. I can't remember what it was.
Originally on the demo, I had your chorus A section.
Oh, okay, yeah. That's being,
It was like
yeah.
filtered and
I
tiny.
had this like creepy circus music, right?
Yeah,
That's
and
what
then
it was.
and then it jumped into where the drums kick in.
Yep.
And
I
you
said
were
I
always
didn't want
like,
to give it away.
Yep,
I
you were
didn't
always
get-
like,
I didn't want to give away the story.
Dude, while we're at the intro real quick, tell them the story about how you came across, because you were in the studio by yourself.
Yes.
Like watching all these
So-
creepy videos.
So I enjoy
Oh,
records. I enjoy listening to records that have, extra elements that are non-musical, like segues and stuff. I think that's really cool. Obviously not always called for, easy to go overboard, that kind of thing. But I thought for this song to establish kind of something creepy in the beginning would really set up the lyric well.
Somebody that I was letting hear the record loved that.
Sweet.
They were like,
That's awesome.
That was one of their comments. Was like, "Oh, I love how every song has this kind of thing," and that's totally what you were going for.
Yes, totally was.
You nailed it with whoever that was.
Nice. So I was like, I want to find like, originally I thought in my mind like a doctor talking about a medical condition, like a doctor talking about some kind of brain condition. That was what I pictured. So I just go on YouTube and go down a rabbit hole. Everyone had left for lunch, and for some reason I'd already eaten or something. And I'm just in the studio in Knoxville on YouTube looking up schizophrenic interviews.
And
with
it's already
doctors.
kind of dark in that studio.
Yeah, it was like
anyways.
this dark,
Like,
vibe. And they were gone for probably an hour and a half.
Yeah.
And the entire hour and a half, I was just watching these videos with these seriously troubled individuals.
Yeah.
And I was trying to find an old one, something in black and white, so the audio would sound a certain way. I didn't want something new. And I came across this interview. We'll put the link in the caption here, so you can go watch the whole thing if you want to. But it's this lady who is a catatonic schizophrenic, and it's really sad. The video is really sad to watch because she's obviously like very soft spoken and sweet, and just is troubled and has these issues.
Yeah.
And so watching it was really sad. Watching most of those videos was really sad. More so than scary, but pulling out those certain phrases that we used, I thought worked pretty well.
I just remember coming back from lunch and Josiah's like at the studio desk, and we come walking back in, and he turns around, he's like, "Watch this." He's like, I have been scouring YouTube watching this since y'all have been gone, and I am scared.
now the little noise was that added?
That was from
It
the
was in the
footage.
original
so
thing, yeah.
I found gaps where there was just the noise and isolated that and made a second
Okay,
track
so
of it.
I remember commenting on that initially,
Yes.
going, "That is insane."
Just the
You're just like,
creaking
"No,
and-
that's what's in there."
Yeah.
and like, I mean, I wonder if it was like the
I think it's from
reel to reel.
I think it was. I think it was artifacts from just the old tape conversion or whatever.
Gosh.
Because
Terrifying.
It's very creepy.
just terrifying.
Yeah, and I was unsure about it. I was like, maybe we'll make a version without it, and whatnot. But everyone seemed to dig it. So
Yeah.
sorry if I scared you. I know it's something my dad commented on, like, well, I had to turn it up to try to hear the vocals, and the music kicked in, and it was so loud. And I was like, yeah, it's kind of what we were going for.
Which is kind of what Beartooth's album did.
And
That's most recent one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Turn it up to hear that beginning, and then boom, blast you.
So one other thing I wanted to talk about was there is a lyric that Kevin, you did not want to say, and so I thought that was an interesting thing.
Do you want to do that or the Andrew Schwab?
Oh, sorry.
Which one you want to do?
Jumping around. Let's
Okay.
start with the Schwab because we're in the studio.
Okay. So I was, trying to perform that that part, I try to lock these thoughts inside a tomb. So I think that you had actually had it a more melodic version on the demo.
Yes, I had written it, and it was very like, I don't know, Panic at the Disco. Funny enough, kind of like. I try to lock these thoughts inside a tomb, but it ends up being my panic room. It's like very like
digging up skeletons.
sounded very classical or something.
Yeah,
like
very
it was
cinematic.
very dancey, very operatic, and I remember you being like, that part just needs to be just balls to the wall, intense. Sorry.
Pool balls. Ping pong balls.
Just trying to be authentic.
Soccer balls.
Authentic
Is that how I
storytelling.
said it?
Racket
Probably.
balls.
I don't know. It's how I interpreted it.
Anyway. Oh my gosh.
You said it needs to be more
It
aggressive.
needs to be
than,
very
like, smart. You said it was
aggressive
too smart. You said it sounded too like.
The whole song is that way. The whole song is extremely clever, and from the get go, and it's got the little keyboard behind it, and the whole thing. And I was like, all right, this part we're done being clever.
Yep.
So the clever is over. We got to freaking just punch him in the face right here. And so I was like gleaning on inspiration from Andrew Schwab and trying to like get that Project 86 voice there. I try to lock these thoughts inside a toe. It's really aggressive. And when I was singing it, it was like, it was good. It was fine.
It was absolutely good.
I was just, when you're in a band and you're trying to do something, you get a little perfectionist going. And I was just like, it's just not what I'm wanting.
Yeah.
Like I thought I was doing it. I thought it was fine.
Yeah.
But it was just not what I was wanting. And the guys were trying to, talk me into getting a guest vocal on the album for the whole time. And I was like, well, this part I'm unhappy with.
Right.
And I feel like I could be doing this better. And I've always been visualizing and inspired by Andrew Schwab in this section, and I'm trying to sing like him anyway.
Right.
That's what I'm trying to do what he would do. WWASD.
Indeed.
So it's like, why don't we just ask him to do it?
Yeah.
And he's a buddy of ours, for real. Like I know people say, oh, he's a friend of mine. And I was like, Andrew's.
We've shared the bus many times.
Yeah, he's a really, really cool friend of ours. And so I called him up and he was like, yeah, sure.
Yeah. He's out in Southern California.
And if you guys remember, I think it was even before you even kind of locked on to like what you were going for, like the Project 86 thing, because I remember we wanted to get a guest vocalist, and originally we thought about Maddie from Memphis
right.
Mayfire.
I remember that.
And so I texted Maddie, and he was in, but with record labels and singers and everything, you've got to go through like all this like crazy
Red
like
tape.
red tape management stuff. So it didn't work out, but it actually worked out for the better, because once Kevin was like, it needs this like Project 86 vibe. And then once Andrew sang the part, it was like, oh, that's perfect, So, and it fell into place.
So he recorded it at a studio out in California with a friend. They sent it over. I edited it, sent it to our mix guy, and he dropped it in. And I remember hearing it like mixed for the first time and being like, ooh, like, got chills. Just, it was the right call, It just, when you have that kind of voice just come in by surprise, you know what I mean? It's just very impactful.
He's so commanding.
Yeah, it's just very impactful.
When he does the same thing when he performs live. I love to watch Project 86 play live because he's not actually moving very much on stage, but he is so commanding. Like,
yes,
he can literally just be like, you stand on your head.
Yeah.
You hit the other person in the right ear. And then it's like, they just did it.
Yeah.
I can't believe he just did it.
Yeah.
He's just
got that
standing there
presence.
just like this present, and you don't even need to see him. Like, you're listening to the song and it's the same thing. You're just like,
Yeah.
it's so powerful. So what you didn't want me to say, or
Yes.
no, what you wrote and what I wouldn't say.
Right. Yes. I thought that was just a cool thing, or not cool, but it's like an interesting part to kind of even promote this video.
Yeah. No.
Well, hey, find out what lyric Kevin wouldn't say on the album.
It's my
Not a cuss word.
or just a phrase that could mean so many different things.
Right.
It's the Pentecostal background that I have. I'm no longer Pentecostal or anything for that matter. I'm a Christian. So if you don't like Pentecostals, then joke's on you, because I'm not one. And if you are one, you're like, oh, he's not Pentecostal anymore. Well, joke's on you. Maybe it's kind of sort of still in. But anyway.
Once Pentecostal, always Pentecostal.
I'm a Christian. Anyway.
Yeah.
So he had this line, which I still sort of say.
Sure.
And now I say, if I were to catch a rare disease.
Mm-hmm. But the original
line was, I want to catch a rare disease. And I was like, no way. No way am I saying that. I got too much name it and claim it in my background.
Yep.
And words, life and death are in the power of the tongue. I've got way too much of that going on in my theological upbringing that I am not going to say that crap on myself.
On a record, yeah.
I want to catch a rare disease. It ain't happening. I'm definitely not singing it 100 times a year. You know?
That's a good point. I actually hadn't thought about
Over and over and over again every night when we. I'm not. This is not going to be my continual prayer every time we do a show.
That was Josiah's evil plan to try to become the lead singer.
Maybe he'll sing this over and over again. I remember you saying, because I had written that and sung it on the demo, and you were like, I don't think I can sing that line. And at first we were like, well, maybe we'll just rewrite that whole section. But then I think you just had the idea to twist the phrasing.
Because the point you're trying to make is like, the whole song is about all of these vile thoughts that no one ever knows that we have. And they're all this very selfish and just very indulgent, self-indulgent, prideful thoughts that we have and that we all have. And, even though there's some mean, evil apostles out there and pastors that won't admit that they have sin in their life. They read 1 John and it's like, he who says he doesn't have sin is a liar. That they haven't got that far in the Bible because it's 1 John's towards the end. Yeah, so they haven't read that far. But anyway, it was one of those things where, this whole song is about this self-indulgent, prideful thing. And, like how you could even turn around, like, wanting to be sick just so you could, the good things that can come from being sick. That's how just like insane and crazy some of our evil thoughts that go through our mind. And so the point he was trying to make, I loved, it's like, how can I say it? So if I were to catch a rare disease, that would,
you're not saying you want it.
Yeah, that could be cool to have a rare, and people would just have all this sympathy and all this attention that I would get, and like how evil that is to think that way.
Totally.
And so that's kind of what we're saying. So the whole song is about all of the evil thoughts that that we have, and it says I try to lock these thoughts inside a tomb. Right. And plus it is really the crossroads of anxiety and depression as well. So it's really getting into those, those areas. And then it can go ahead and talk about the Bible verses.
Sure,
please. And that kind of goes with the Bible verses that go along with the song. One of them is from Psalm 51:3. Psalm 51 is the psalm that David wrote right after he was confronted with his sin with Bathsheba, and not after the sin was committed, but after the prophet Nathan actually says, "Hey, dude, you've done this," and so he's like repenting to God. And he's saying, in Psalm 51:3, he says, I recognize my rebellion and it haunts me day and night. And so it kind of goes along with these things when we recognize this evil, that's in us. So I try to lock these thoughts inside a tomb, but it ends up being my panic room. When the demons start digging up skeletons, these demons start digging up, things in my past and shame and whatever, and the ghosts leave me with nowhere to run. I'm stuck in this place. It's kind of like David. He's like, look, it haunts me day and night. It's hide me away. Throw away the key. It's just another day in the panic. When we're living in shame and regret and rebellion and pride and all those things, and we don't let Jesus come and medicate those areas and heal and touch our lives in those areas, they are things that will haunt us day and night. Depression is this haunting thing, like it's a day and night thing, shame and regret and guilt. It's a day and night thing. It's like, like you're doing really good, and then someone says, let's pray, and then all of a sudden guilt because someone, these key words that just like, trigger, emotions and things. And so that's, something that the song is really hitting on, I think. Another one is Proverbs 12:25, and I love this verse. It says, worry weighs a person down, but encouraging word cheers a person up. And it's like, I really love that because, it's saying just another day in the panic,
And we talk about the cycle of gloom and guilt. Cycle of gloom and guilt. Where it's just like, it's all just feeding itself over and over. And I was also going to mention just how, and this is a theme that we'll talk about, I'm sure, in other story behind the songs, but how just being around you, Joey, when you were going through a lot of your anxiety and depression, I know we talked about how it definitely like inspired a lot of the, lyrics that came through on this
song,
album.
Chemical Wisdom, the more so than the others.
Yeah. It was actually insane. Like as you were writing the lyrics, it kind of was telling my story because like even when it said, what's the line before I won't scratch until it burns?
I want to
Unlearn what I
Unlearn
learned.
what I
Okay,
learned.
so like I had come out of all this like kind of like crazy paranoia from being in this really bad situation at church, and I was going through this whole like faith crisis and unlearning literally what I've learned, and at the same time like I had these, I don't know if you guys remember, but I had these horrible skin issues where my skin was literally like, I mean, there was one time we were in Germany and it looked like my eyes were like falling out of my head, you know, like, but like I constantly, and I even got accused a few times on YouTube because I still read comments like an idiot, but got accused a few times of being a drug addict. Like people were saying like, that guy's always scratching. He must be having
way.
withdrawals. Yeah.
Oh my God, I didn't know that.
But yeah, so like I used to scratch all the time because I had really bad eczema that was anxiety and depression induced. Like my body was in such a horrible cycle of gloom, guilt, all this stuff. But like when you wrote that line, I was like, Josiah's writing the song about like this is crazy how
That's
this is
so
like
funny,
kind of
yeah.
ending up like exactly my story, like every line for line.
That's so cool.
And so it even helped me kind of process my own crap, you know, to where it was like, cool, like this is out on display for
that's
the world
what
to see, and I'm okay with it. You know,
That's what I love about the song, and what we're already seeing people respond to it with is like, oh man, like I'm so glad I'm not the only one who like has these thoughts and like feels this way sometimes,
Yeah.
you know, and you know, it's not near as Jesus-y as
Yeah.
a lot of our songs, and it's not as blatantly ministry focused as a lot of our songs. But I love how we've seen a lot of responses that are like, oh my gosh, like this is ministering so much because you're telling, you know, my story. Or
And see, I think I even came out of a situation where I almost felt like I couldn't be a human. I couldn't be a human and be real about what I was feeling or what I was going through, because like it was always like this appearance thing. And so whenever I got into Disciple, you know, this is a whole new world for me. And so it was almost like that pressure compounded. It was like, I got to like look perfect and look together and everything. And then as I grew in this band and everything, and even to where I'm at today, it's like, I'm more okay with people knowing like, dude, I'm just a normal human being that messes up just like you and everything, and I'm not going to live in this.
At drums, messes up at drums.
Yeah, messes up with drums. Nothing else.
like you.
Nothing else.
Just like you.
But yeah, I think that the whole idea of just being like, you know what, like I'm actually okay with the darkness sometimes, like because I still feel it, and I let myself feel it for a certain amount of time, and then I'm like, all right, once this timer's up, I'm done with it, and I'm moving on. You know,
I think that's great.
And
Like,
so
it's so healthy.
Yeah, and so now that I've been able to talk about it, and even like this song is kind of like starting to help people, like the more we've talked about it and put it out there, the more we've realized like this is a conversation that nobody's happening or is no one's having, and this is stupid. Like, why does everybody feel like they can't talk about real life stuff, you know?
Yep.
And so I was very thankful that we started like attacking these issues.
Well, and that's one of the main reasons that it's really cool that it is your vocal debut is on this song.
Oh yeah.
His first.
Kevin got me
vocal
mad in the
feature.
studio, and I screamed in the
I think that's a great
microphone.
story. We don't have to go like
Not mad
super
at him.
detailed.
He channeled the old memory.
Can you remember how I think you had said like I want to scream on this album or something.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh dude, Panic Room, do this scream in this second pre-chorus. So in the second pre-chorus, you hear me go, sometimes I scare myself, and then you hear a deep scream in the background go, sometimes I scare myself. That's Joey. And we sent him into the booth. It was me, him, and Kev. We were the only ones there.
Yeah,
for
we were
some
the only
reason.
ones there.
There's the three of us there. We send him into the booth. I'm like, dude, just go for it. Like, he's like, oh, I don't really know the technique. I was like, just scream. He did it a couple times. Okay. And then,
I've had a lot of experience with producers.
Yes.
And producers like saying certain words to try to get the best performance out of me. Because sometimes you can sing something and it'd be pretty good, and and then the producer comes in and like football coaches you is like either like come on man or like talking down at you or whatever to try to get the best thing out of you. And so I just basically went in and I knew. I say this all the time. I say this all the time. It's like, I know you do. I say that all the time about anything just to manipulate him or control him. And
great friendship.
Yeah, I know. And I know him. And I was like, oh, this is going to be awesome. So like, I just knew because he was screaming and I could tell it was like, he's not really He's not tried this before. You know, he's not really actually tried this before. He's
Well, and I think
he's
you're probably
being a little-
focusing. You're focusing more on the technique than maybe the emotion.
focusing on, you know, I want to make this scream sound good, and I was like, screw that, you know, I don't want you to think about, you know, you're thinking about screaming, and you're thinking about it sounding good, and whatever. And I'm like, no, I need you back in that mega church. I need what's that guy's name? And he told me the name. Don't say it.
No, I won't say the full name, but this is how I reacted. He was like, "What's the name of that one guy that did you wrong in church?" And I went, "Justin." He's like, "That guy." He's like,
Now sing. Yeah.
And it worked. The very next take was the one.
Yeah, that scared me too.
Dude, yes.
I'm scared officially.
and then I whispered later on in the song.
And then the whisper right before chorus 3 is also Joe.
Yeah,
and
when
it
the
was
song completely drops out.
This is why I want y'all to watch that Stephen Colbert, Anderson Cooper interview, is because kind of what Joey went through, you know, Stephen Colbert talks about it a little bit, like, you know, going through tragedy or loss or whatever, and how it's God sent in a lot of ways, which, you know, you can debate theologically or whatever, but his take was it's God sent in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And he said there's something, or not necessarily God sent, but just that he appreciates it and he's grateful for the tragedy and the loss. He said, because there's something about it in the human experience that allows you to connect with others and empathize with others.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't be able to do that regardless. Now, think about how many people struggle with suicidal thoughts or depression or anxiety that come to disciple shows.
Many.
So many.
Yes.
And now if none of us had ever gone through that, and we're just sitting there talking to everybody as if we know what it's like, and we don't.
Yeah.
And Joey literally walks through that, and now it's not necessarily just about him, but now he has empathy for every single person that comes through there and says, you know, I've been struggling with that, and instead of like, you know, being above them, looking down your nose and being like, oh, I'm really sorry for you. It's like, I know, you know, where you've been. I know what you've been through. And I think that is really a really awesome, you know, aspect of, you know, we're talking about the song, an awesome aspect of where we've been, because there's empathy with people who, you know, are coming to the shows. We're dealing with so many people.
Another perspective on that kind of that godsend thing, the way I look at it too, is kind of like, you know, had I never experienced that pain, I would probably still be in that same place doing that same thing, you know, like, cause it was comfortable, but it actually like uprooted me and got me to go after what I've actually wanted to do with my life, which is be in a band, play. Like, would I be touring had none of that stuff ever happened? You know, like probably not. So as painful as it was, and as many like, you know, riled up feelings as it brings, it's like, it was actually probably the best thing that ever happened to me. So like, if you're going through that same thing, like maybe where you're at, maybe that pain is for a purpose. I can't say that I guess all pain is for a purpose, but I don't know. Yeah. So I guess it's all in how you look at it, but I would just say like, yeah, it's definitely a godsend, in my own experience. So it's great spin on it.
I need to borrow someone's mic because mine just went out.
Dead mic.
Some
This
might
video's
say
professional.
Some might say it's the darkest song Disciples ever written. I don't know. What would you say to that?
Darkest? When I think darkest, I go to the Back Again album, and I think of Unclean Lips. I can't think of the title of the song. Hold on, I'll find it.
All right, find it.
It's close. It's close to the darkest song.
Yeah.
I think there's one that's a little darker.
Interesting. I want to know what that is, or I want the people to hear it straight from the
Josiah
horse's
wants
mouth.
to know so he can
Try to beat it next time.
on the next album. All right, guys.
Hardened. It's called Hardened. I thought it's a song called Hardened on the Back Again album, and it's really, you know, I think the theme of it is, you know, dark, but then the feel of it is also just very, very, very dark. Play Hardened by Disciple.
Hard
Hard and. Nope.
Play the opposite song. God is with us.
God is with us, the darkest song.
Hold on. Play the song Hardened by Disciple.
Heartland. Hold on. We've got to show this. Heartland dub by the Disciples. Look at that. Please focus.
Back up a little bit.
Heartland dub by the Disciples is the name of the
There it
song.
is.
There it is. Oh, come on.
Back up just a little bit. Yeah.
Yes,
it
it's
showed it for a
backwards,
minute.
but yeah.
Oh my gosh.
That song's pretty cool.
Amazing.
Should we cover that?
Man, these are some dark songs.
Oh my gosh.
I'm getting real depressed.
Oh my gosh.
That's amazing.
Just
Are you gonna get it? Okay. Pretty hilarious.
oh Lord.
Hardened is a tough word for Siri to understand.
Yeah. It's pretty freaky. Yeah.
Okay, next album, we gotta write crap like this. Let's do this. Bring it back.
I like to hear this first little part of the chorus. Yeah.
Can we play that
Yeah,
on a
sure.
tour? Good gosh.
The band and the
That's
guys in
awesome.
Disciple are discovering Disciple songs.
I know. Listen,
There's a lot.
I know.
There's a lot.
Everyone who's watching who like,
They're like, I know that song.
I know, they're all like, back against my favorite album, and they're like, the band members have never even heard it.
They're gonna be petitioning for us to not get paid anymore.
Here's the thing.
I
These
have-
guys, they should probably know track 1, 2, 3, and 4 of every album, but that's
Yeah.
like, it's like track 5.
I
It's
have
like, you
listened.
got stuff to do.
I
you know?
have, I have listened to every album at least once. I'll say that, but yeah, definitely don't know them all.
They'll have them memorized.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
So funny. You're like, oh, why don't we play that?
What if Kevin had a quarterly performance review of us and be like, tested our knowledge of Disciple
Yeah.
songs?
That'd be awful. That'd be awful.
Multiple choice.
Can you imagine Andrew taking that test about song lyrics?
Song lyrics.
Oh man,
That's an alley oop for
I
a
know.
really terrible joke.
I know. Well, that's pretty much it with this one. We've been having fun playing it live. It's
Yeah.
been going really good live, I think.
One
Yes.
of my favorite songs to play
And
live.
Radio U is playing the song, which
Yeah.
is a
Super
huge
cool.
blessing.
Yeah.
Someone sent me a video on Instagram today of them in their car and radio station. I assume it was Radio U. It was
Yeah.
playing.
Very cool.
It was 102.5. I don't know if that's their call number or what, but
I don't know.
Yeah.
That song did get service to Christian rock radio everywhere, so it might have been somewhere
sick.
else.
it's awesome.
But yeah, it's been a lot of fun. The other little tidbit,
One of the hardest and darkest songs we've ever
yeah, there you go. One of them for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
The other tidbit that I left out of the story that was just unique to the song is that you might remember if you watched my Instagram at all, that at a certain point last year, I erased a ton of old Disciple stuff from my hard drive by accident. Old demos, old, sessions, old live tracks. Devastating day when I discovered that. I remember texting him and just being like, I did something terrible. And the only song I had all the current year demos, but the only song I didn't have the demo for was Panic Room. I have the bounced version, but I didn't have the whole session. And I had built so many custom sounds and transitions and everything. All the stuff that you pretty much hear on the final is stuff I had to rebuild in the studio.
And you had even done some vocal takes that, you were kind of like, man, I kind of wish I had the vocal takes I did on the original,
Totally. That's right. The pre-chorus, I think.
Yeah.
So that was a hard pill to swallow, but lesson learned.
You recreated it well, my friend.
Well, thank you. That was a fun one to record. It was also, I remember when we left the studio with the finished roughs, and that was the one that we were all like, this one sounds like done. Like it sounded like really close to done.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was just how we tracked it or the energy or what it was, but it definitely got, even better in mix, but I remember leaving the studio and being like, this one just feels right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So let's do more like that.
I'm in.
I think it was one of the ones that we put potentially for me. No, it's Cuff the Criminal, I think. Cuff the Criminal was one that I came in with, was low on the list, and
Right.
then left the studio with it high on the list. Panic Room, I think it went in the studio pretty high on the list, but left the studio with it extremely
It
high on the list.
definitely grew for all of us, I think. We
Yeah.
all, really liked how it came out, and hope you do too. So that is the story behind Panic Room. Thanks for listening. Go listen to the song.
He's trapped in the 80s. That's my magical spell.
That's it.
Just like taking back to G.I. Joe and My Little Pony
so
and Transformers right there.
There's a professional hockey player, a professional freaking hockey player.
Oh my gosh.
On the Sharks named Joe.
guy is so ugly.
Named Joe Panic, and I'm really hoping that he uses this for his
Oh, dude.
his walk up song. It's Panic with a K.
Are you kidding me?
No,
Dude, that's awesome.
we got to get someone.
Joe Panic?
Yeah,
Can I legally change my name to that? That is awesome.
it's pretty great. So maybe by the time you see this, he'll already be using it for his, walkout music. Do they have that in hockey? I don't even know.
No, they don't.
All right, see y'all next time.
We're really good at outros and intros.
That was good.